Put the PC shot on. We got Haywood. And Haywood said, here is another one from the Flesh Simulator guy. He makes good content. This one revolves around a military general who was a satanic pedophile. It's over 5 minutes, but if you'll find it interesting. Are you talking about Aquino? All right, dude, I know about Aquino, all right? All right, he's the guy that is literally behind psychological black operations in every level of, you know, the black operative bureaucracy.
Here's a brain teaser
Put the
for
PC
you.
shot.
What do these three things?
Yep, Michael Aquino. What did I tell you?
Satanists, the Army's Psychological Warfare Division, and the people running one of the worst and widest-ranging child exploitation rings in the history of the country. They're all Tool fans? Nope. This guy.
They're all Tool fans?
Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino. All right, so this is a topic that I've had requested a couple times, and I've been struggling to figure out how to distill the topic into a cohesive video. So delving into this topic is sort of like getting asked for a plot summary of Metal Gear.
Now, this guy's probably going to tell the absolute truth of what the hell Michael Aquino is. Michael Aquino, believe it or not, is the protege of Anton LaVey. And Michael Aquino also had, I believe, close correspondence with Aleister Crowley. And this guy isn't a... this guy, he's pretty well... I mean, even though he's kind of autistic about it, he does tell stories in a way where I think autists will get it. So I got to give this guy some props. The Flesh Simulator.
You're solid. Where it's just like... shit, okay, how much time do you have? So instead, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this into a multi-part series, covering all the connections and sub-connections through a video structure of assembling one of those Pepe Sylvia, like, red string cork boards. So to begin, let's go back to the 1960s. Let's start with the man himself, Michael Aquino, a highly decorated military officer, a satanic priest. He confirms this, and alleged prolific child abuser. He does not confirm this. More on those second 2 points later. During the Vietnam War, he spent multiple years...
Well, hold on. Yeah, he was in Vietnam. He was part of psychological opera. This guy was heavy shit. And he does not deny that he's a Satanist. He was charged with pedophilia, and I believe he beat the case, and that's where this all comes from.
Involved in clandestine operations, highly likely and generally assumed to be as a part of the Phoenix program.
That's right.
Although this has never officially been...
Operation Phoenix. Why do you think I know about this prick?
Been confirmed on the record. The Phoenix program, largely considered both...
Look up the Phoenix program.
Both a precursor to modern psychological warfare, as well as a dick move. The Phoenix program was an operation that primarily involved torturing people for information, to send a message, to scare people, keep them in a state of distrust and paranoia. Additionally, it also developed psychological warfare techniques to demoralize the Viet Cong, including the infamous spooky ghost voices telling you to surrender in Vietnamese tape that we played loud as shit from airplanes flying around at night. You know, the methods developed here will later be rolled into Operation Gladio, a fascist-aligned strategy of tension deployed in communist or former communist countries. This will come
look at Jason. I bet you know all about this PSYOPs, bitch.
Chekhov's gun thing. Aquino's experience in Vietnam more or less directly led to his later career as basically the father of modern-day psychological warfare.
I just said
as described in his paper From PSYOP to Mind War, which describes the methods and goals of psychological warfare. From PSYOP
to Mind War.
That's right. This guy is the person who came up with the term PSYOP.
Yes, he did.
So everything thus far is probably reasonably expected information. Let's move on to the more unexpected side of things. Michael Aquino was a Satanist, being a high-ranking member of Anton LaVey's Church of Satan.
I know.
Now, to be clear, there is nothing inherently evil or wrong about being a member of the Church of Satan these days, given that it's basically goth atheism. However, in Aquino's case, he was not on board with the comparative lack of literally worshipping Satan, and split off into a theistic satanic sect, the Temple of Set. He formed the Temple of Set with his wife Lilith, who ran a New York coven called the Lilith Grotto. This is her. Side note, pictures of these two together are invariably hilarious. There's a lot of bad things to be said about Michael Aquino, but
he's dead serious.
Where credit is due, you know, I can't fault him for having a thing for the Goths. Now, on to the third nature
Aquino is dead serious.
Wait. So you're telling me that in addition to being the father of modern psychological warfare and coining the term PSYOP, this dork is also the LeBron James of child abuse? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. But look at him. Those don't look like the eyebrows of a satanic pedophile. Alright, now time to get into the much darker side of the video. There is extensive documentation of the details of the abuses alleged, most of which I will be omitting unless the details are specifically relevant. The Presidio scandal. In 1986, allegations of sexual abuse were raised against teacher and Baptist minister Reverend Gary Hambright, who taught at the Presidio Child Development Center at the Presidio base in San Francisco. Upon finding significant physical and psychological evidence of abuse amongst children in Hambright's class, including at least 5 of whom had contracted chlamydia, the children were later questioned and mentioned being taken out of the classroom into a private residence, where they were also abused by 2 other adults who they called Mikey and Shamby. The kids had a consistent description of the house as having a dark interior filled with all kinds of satanic stuff, as well as a soundproof room with soft material lining the walls. Additionally, when driven around the area, multiple victims separately identified the same house as the one that they'd been taken to. Now, who are the owners of the house? Now, this might surprise you, but Michael and Lilith Aquino. Shocking. Now, where did Aquino work at the time? The Presidio base. The cops got a search warrant, searched the house, and dark interior, lots of satanic crap, padded room, tons of video cameras and equipment, all checks out. So, this seems pretty bad, right? You know, presumably he gets prosecuted.
Yeah, but he got acquitted.
He does not get prosecuted.
That's right.
A fact that Aquino maintains proves his innocence. There were several setbacks to the investigation.
Look, this dude is a fucking serious, sick, fucking satanic motherfucker. Just FYI, all right? And King Schlog, the Esalen Institute.
And including a pair of fires about 3 weeks apart that destroyed Hambright's classroom in the development center, as well as one in the administrative building next door where Aquino worked, in which a number of unnamed records and documents were destroyed. Now, despite the Army's insistence that these 2 fires were accidents and unrelated, the ATF was adamant in their reports that the fires were arson. Yep, that's right, I said the ATF. Do you have any idea how evil and or willfully bureaucratic you have to be to make the ATF look like the reasonable ones? Aquino claims the positive chlamydia tests are inconclusive
not all
because they were only preliminary positives
together, you know?
and were somehow misplaced
not all
and then disappeared before a full
together.
lab result sheet could be recorded. Alright, so why was he not prosecuted? To answer that, we have to do a quick run-through of a different kitty-diddling scandal that he was implicated in. The Franklin scandal from the last episode.
Now, this was a huge scandal that brought down every politician in Franklin. He's probably going to go into it, but if you want to see the biggest exposure of elites and pedophilia, the Franklin scandal is something that has been buried in history. And, you know, anybody who kind of talks about it, you know, they kind of, you know, they're not necessarily embraced by social media or any of that shit.
All right, here's the Spark Notes. In Paul Benas's testimony against Lawrence King, he identified Aquino only as the colonel, but was able to pick him out of a lineup and described him as the ringleader as well as King's direct superior. Lawrence King's photographer, Rusty Nelson, identified Aquino as the man he had seen King hand over suitcases full of cash to. King had reportedly told Nelson that Aquino had been involved in the Iran-Contra drugs for guns affair. Now, Gary Webb, of Being Murdered for pointing out the CIA's connection to the crack epidemic fame, and strangely, also a reporter for the same newspaper that initially broke the Presidio story, the San Jose Mercury News, brought up this guy, Joe Ruscianello, as an involved party in the Iran-Contra thing. You know, the same scandal that multiple other witnesses implicated Aquino as being involved in as well. So,
well, of course they were, because look, when you're dealing in black operations, look, the whole Iran-Contra thing, let me just give you some insight on this. There was a massive congressional investigation into what was so-called the Iran-Contra. And what it was Oliver North, which was, I think a lieutenant colonel or a colonel at the time. He actually was co-opted by the CIA in order to bypass the chain of command, in order to directly talk to the Iranians so that we can get our soldiers back. Because the Iranians had a lot of Marines when they took over the entire country of Iran, and we wanted those people back, and we didn't want to look stupid about it and all that shit. Then we traded arms to them in exchange for hostages. But that was just the cover of what was truly exposed in the Iran-Contra. What this guy loosely, kind of brushed over here was the fact that the CIA utilized a uprising in Nicaragua. And this uprising in Nicaragua was a revolution, a leftist revolution that took out a junta that was ran by a guy named General Blandón. And General Blandón had, once he got ousted, he still had a bunch of dedicated fighters in Nicaragua. And because Nicaragua, there was a lot of leftism and a bunch of communism spreading in the time in South America, we tried what we could to prevent that spread. So the fact that the Iran-Contras were coming down and congressional oversight for monies that were allocated for the CIA, because they were being closely monitored by authorities, the CIA needed to figure out a way how to get money outside the purview of Congress. And they figured out doing this by co-opting Blandón, co-opting the Medellin family or the Medellin cartel, and co-opting the Clintons in Arkansas when Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas. And what happened is that they were able to take large amounts of cocaine, because cocaine is easily produced out in South America, especially in Nicaragua. So what they did is the CIA directed a whole bunch of pilots that they co-opted by a guy they recruited by the name of Barry Seal. There's a good movie about that called American Dream, I believe it's called. It was a Tom Cruise movie that wasn't really fucking promoted. But I think it's a good movie because it tells how it was. It tells how they recruited. I'm talking the fucking CIA recruited Barry Seal. He was a fucking pilot, and he had done some military shit, and that's why he became a pilot. Is in the military, and he was precision wise, he was able to evade things. And he was able to fly that was unconventional, that would evade certain radars, that would evade certain shit. So they co-opted him to be the guy that goes to Nicaragua, goes to Colombia, gets the fucking drugs, and then brings it in through Arkansas in a fucking airport that's in a very small town called Mena, Arkansas, which is where Barry Seal settled. He became a millionaire out there. He owned the airfield, and he was able to recruit a whole bunch of other motherfuckers to where they were taking cocaine from South America, bringing it in through Mena, Arkansas, and distributing it all over the country via a black gangster by the name of Freeway Ricky Ross. All right, Freeway Ricky Ross. These are all real people. I'm dropping, the real shit here. And Freeway Ricky Ross is what distributed all the cocaine. That's why they called him Freeway. This guy was on the road distributing large amounts of cocaine, was protected by the CIA to evade any kind of local authorities and shit, and making lots of money. Now, what happened with all that money? All that money was used to fund the black operative private CIA funding mechanism in order to evade government oversight. And that's why the CIA can almost do whatever the fuck it wants. Anyway, play the video.
How does this all relate? Well, the question that we were asking was, why was Aquino not prosecuted for the Presidio thing? Well, let's look at who the San Francisco DA was at the time. This guy, Joe Ruscianello. He was the U.S. Attorney for the Northern California District, and he was the person who declined to prosecute Aquino on federal charges. So, that might have something to do with it. Alrighty, this video has gotten long and convoluted enough as it is, so this feels like a good stopping point. If you guys like the
Well, I think you abstractly went through a bunch of shit and really didn't go into the detail that I explained there, buddy. And maybe that's your ADHD autism, but you're giving breadcrumbs, all right? And fuck you, urinator. And Menno Ray, save it for TCR. Yeah, fuck you, dude. I'm just saying, man. I mean, I'm telling you the detailed whys and whats and the names. And I mean, Haywood donated that video, and I already knew who he was talking about. I already knew he was talking about.